Okay, hello everybody. Everybody stand for Pledge Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome to the Addison Township Zoning Board of Appeals. Lost my page. You need one? Yeah, I got it here. I'd like to get approve the agenda, like. Roll call. Oh, roll call. Yeah, can I get a roll call, please?
Chair Hayward.
Here.
Vice Chair Smith.
Here.
Tony Spina.
Here.
Eric Sen.
Here.
Robert DeWitt.
Here.
Bill Marshall.
Here.
Okay, now I'd like to take a look at the agenda and get a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
I'll support. We have a motion to support. Roll call vote on that.
Robert DeWitt.
Yes.
Eric Sen.
Yes.
Tony Spina.
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Chair Hayward.
Yes. Okay, and next, to approve the minutes. Does anybody have any corrections from February 8th, meetings minutes? And hearing none,
I'll make a motion, we approve the February 8th minutes as typed.
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's start out with case 1801. The applicant, William J. Thomas of William J. Thomas Studio. Owners are Byrd and Jennifer Corner. Address 524 7th Street, Rochester Hills. Property address is at 5262 Borman Road, Leonard, Michigan. Parcel 0502-100-013. Zoning is agricultural A. This applicant seeks a variance from the Township of Addison Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Addison Township zoning ordinance of a 9,275 square feet variance for the size of an accessory building from Article 4, Section 4.21.2 D. Proposed size of accessory building is 13,775 square feet. Secondly, D, the total area of individual accessory buildings shall not exceed the following limitations. This is for A, RE, SE, and SF lot or parcel size, maximum total area for an individual accessory building. Which one pertains here is the one of over 435,600 square feet, over 10 acres. It has a limit of 4,500 square feet. All right. This is in deliberation. There is no public hearing for this case. Would the applicant like to briefly address the ZBA again? And
Sure. You guys have any questions? Did anybody have a chance to visit the site?
Yes.
Yeah, I was out there today.
They kind of see the way that site does really roll off. We're building the structure at the very top of that crown. right behind where the house is being built today.
Yeah.
So, any questions pertaining to the site or to the design that I can answer for you guys?
I have a question. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Where this residence is located, out in this new structure that we're talking about, the variance.
Correct.
We're talking about a very large building. Okay. One of the things out here in the rural area is fire protection. I think the structure itself that we're talking about for the variance and also the residence is quite large. It would, for the fire department, Addison Township, it could be a hardship if there was an emergency, a fire emergency. The thing that I'd like to question you about, the consideration of a pond and a dry hydrant, which would be a source of water, which would address the hardship on the township in order to fight a possible fire, and also insurance-wise, I'm sure the owner, it would be a great thing to have, a pond and a dry hydrant that the fire department could siphon from.
We haven't talked about that.
You could possibly impose the creek that's in the back.
Yeah, right.
Well, but yeah, there's, that was looked at by the fire department, you know, where, yeah, it's a twofold thing. I think it's a win-win. It's a good thing for the township, so we can adequately get fire protection.
Okay.
The key thing is adequate. Okay, but it's a large structure, and especially what's going to be in this structure. Okay, I think.
No, I think Vernon would agree with you on the ability to protect the structure. The question needs to be located in front of the property would be beautiful on the drive as well.
Yeah, you know, in front of the property, and you know the way it's shaped, you take advantage of the flat area, the structure, and the pond in the front. But the key thing would also be a dry hydrant. You know,
that would be part of it. Correct. Pump the water back to the top of the hill.
I'm sure the owners of the insurance company would jump up and down. Okay, I'd like to. Okay, so you would consider that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure he would.
Okay.
Never got brought up.
Right, first.
That's a good point.
Well, again, out in the rural area.
Yep.
No, it is. It's about
It's about medical and it's about fire.
And the house on its own is large enough to warrant it, so.
I would agree with that, yes.
No, we could. Sure, instead of bring multiple trucks in the water, trying to find something big.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sun.
You'd be okay with adding that? And then to the motion? That'd be for-
If we need to, yeah, I'm sure he would okay that. Yeah.
There's also the option of a fire suppression system in the structure as well, but
I've been down that road, it tends to, especially on that scale, tends to be extremely costly. And it's not so much the fire suppression, it's the generators and the other equipment that's go along with it to be able to fire it and the well capacity to maintain it. Those have to go up to such a huge level on a commercial level. So
I think if the land supports a pond, the pond's a good way to go.
yeah, I think it's a great idea, actually, I really do. It's just about Vern being here to 100% say yes, it's a bit of a tough call, but if you guys make that a stipulation on the approval, I'm sure we can make it work out there.
So what we have here, from what I see, and I gathered information that was given to me from the township. If this was a riding arena that took care of livestock and horses, no problem. But because, you know, he come out and said, this is what I'm using it for, I applaud that, appreciate it, and I think there may be some dialogue, if we do go forward with this, to have conditions set into, make sure this is not going to be a business. Make sure it's not going to be commercialized, it's for personal use
We
only.
would have no problem having an affidavit submitted from the attorney upon approval to ensure this would never be used for a business. This is purely for Vern's personal use, and I think he would think opposite. I mean, he never wanted to have that for a business.
Yeah, and that's, and again, he could have said these, you hadn't.
He could have stayed there and just tried to sell you guys on something for sure.
Right.
He was honest and forthcoming. This is what he wants to have it for. He's got a vehicle collection of vehicles. Back to your fire suppression point, that he would do whatever it took to protect. So
I was out there and walked the property today. Well, I walked enough as far as I could walk without falling down and getting stuck, but yeah, you could put it in the front yard.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's it really is, but.
And then you could put, more than one building out there, but because he's in harmony with the house, the architecture, beautiful architecture of the house, and spend an extra dollar,
Right.
this lends to his favor, in my opinion. Conditions would be recorded at the county on the deed.
As far as not being a business.
Not being a business, not living quarters.
Yeah, that's,
Pretty much that I can think of would probably be it.
yeah, Vernon had no issue about it, those being recorded on the deed. If they were to board horses, though, it's something we'll have to verify with your attorney, maybe, that structure will not be pertaining to business, but if they're boarding horses on the property in another structure, that might be a different...
Different structure.
There's going to be a horse barn, but a different property.
Separate question.
Okay, as long as it just pertains to that structure, I think it would be an okay...
Yeah, horses are welcome.
But they are, so I don't want to stop us from doing something else down the road, just making sure that if it pertains to that structure, not using that structure as an actual business housing, or if you want to term it as.
Right.
And just allow us to be able to have this is a large property, other agricultural businesses on the property. That structure just will not support those.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? In hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. On the case of 1801, owner Bernd and Jennifer Kerner, address 5262 Boardman Road. I'd like to grant the variance of 9,275 square feet based on the facts presented to the board, which included the survey of the land showing the size, elevation, with the public hearing, and the neighbor is okay. There seems to be no objection in that area. And also, I'd like to make a condition on this variance that the pond and the ordinance and the dry hydrant would be installed per the Addison Fire Department Chief's specification.
Okay. Very good.
That would be my motion.
Can we amend what I talked about with that?
With no business purposes.
No business purpose and not to ever to be a harboring living space.
Yes, I would agree with that.
That would be recorded at the Oakland County Deed Register of Deeds.
Right.
Is that a second with a friendly amendment?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Do you accept the friendly amendment?
Yes, I do.
So we have a motion and a second, and we would need a roll call vote then.
Roll call vote, please.
Robert Witt.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Tony Spina.
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Chair Hayward.
Yes.
We'll get in touch with Jerry and talk about the fire hydrant. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to excuse myself from the meeting at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item of business. Hang on here. There it is. Here we go. Case number 17-02, applicant is Verizon Wireless. The property owner is Addison Township. Property address is at 5020 Hosner Road. parcel 0505300.011 zoning. I'm sorry, zoning is public institutional P-1. The hearing issue is the variance request was the subject of a public hearing on June 8, 2017. And a ZBA decision to grant the variance was issued on July 31st, 2017. The sole issue for the public hearing on March 8, 2018 is for the ZBA to receive public input and comments with regard to the lot size variance of 14.76 acres solely in relationship to the fall zone of the property as set forth in the ZBA decision dated July 31st, 2017. Based on the evidence presented at the March 8, 2018 hearing, the ZBA may affirm, modify, or revoke the variance granted by the ZBA in the decision dated July 31st, 2017.
Mr. Chair, may I speak on that, please?
Absolutely, Mr. Davis.
Members of the public, this matter remains under the jurisdiction of the Oakland County Circuit Court for purposes of this hearing. This hearing is a remand from the court case back to the ZBA, which is now before the ZBA pursuant to notice and pursuant to the hearing process. I have multiple copies here of the court's order. I think I have 20, which may or may not be enough. But if anybody would like a copy of the court's order, feel free to come up and take one. And I also have a copy of the prior decision which led to the court's order. In the court order, there were 4 items that the court ruled on, and we're here on the 4th items. The court ruled that this matter should be remanded back to this body to conduct a public hearing pursuant to public notice as required by the applicable law with regard to the lot size variance of 14.76 acres solely in relationship to the issue of the fall zone as identified as fall zone concern in the decision of July 31st, 2017. The court noted the following, which I would ask that you pay particular attention to. The remand of the fall zone issue shall be the sole subject of this public hearing with proper notices as required by law. So this is a very narrow public hearing. There will not be a decision on this matter this evening. There will be a decision, deliberation on this matter in accordance with the procedures adopted by the ZBA at the next meeting. There will be a public hearing this evening, and we will hold the public hearing consistent with the court order and the court remand as we remain under the jurisdiction of the court. The remand of the fall zone shall be the only issue for this public hearing. We're not going to turn anyone away who wants to speak this evening. We're not going to turn away any documents that want to be tendered this evening. But the only relevant testimony for the public hearing is the fall zone issue. Do you have a comment, a document, or evidence that relates to the fall zone issue? That's the only issue this evening. We have received, for purposes of the public record, which will be presented to the court, so far in the public record, we have the court order dated January 25th of 2018. We have the prior decision of the ZBA dated July 17th, 2017. We have the agenda for tonight's meeting. We have the public hearing notice. We have the affidavit of publication. We have the mailing list. We have the Rand Bowman Township Planner opinions dated July 3rd, 2017 and March 7th, 2018 on the fall zone issue. We have a letter from Attorney Jonathan Crane representing Verizon dated February 14, 2018. We have an expert report from Sabre Industries dated February 13, 2018 and February 12, 2018 on the issue of the fall zone. We have an expert letter from PAE Engineering, the township engineering firm dated March 2nd, 2018. We have communication from Timothy A. Stoker, the distinguished attorney for Kingsbury Day School and longtime colleague of mine. Mr. Stoker, welcome to the Addison Township meeting. We have communications from Amanda Shelton. We have communication from Ivan Lubinsky, Shauna Lubinsky. We have communication from Melissa Hans. We have communication from Rebecca Coleman Youngblood, Page, and Cade Youngblood. If I did bad on that, I apologize. We have communication from Kathleen McDonald. We have communication from Melissa Lynch. We have communication from Kelly Donaldson. We have communication from Rebecca Coleman. We have communication from Sarah Alexander Maher. We have communication from Katie Carroll. And we have a second communication from Amanda Shelton that consisted of an email, a letter, and various attachments. All of those materials have been timely received today, a lot of them copied, placed in front of each of you for purposes of your record, which will become subject matter of your deliberations and potential decision at the next meeting. We will hold the public hearing, and this body will receive information that you present. This body will not be answering your questions, nor will the body dialogue with you with respect to your comments. It's a time to receive input from the public, and everyone should have an opportunity to speak. We're not going to get the clock out and time everyone, but please be considerate, because I know a lot of you want to speak, and let's let everyone speak once before you speak twice. And let's try to keep our time around 3 to 5 minutes per speaker, if that's acceptable. Again, we're not going to place a clock on it. We'll all know when it's getting past 5 minutes. In accordance with the procedures adopted by the ZBA, we will first hear, after the public hearing is opened formally by the chair with a vote of the ZBA, we'll first hear from the applicant. The ZBA in its procedures reserves the right to ask the applicant questions during the applicant's portion of this presentation. So you'll note there may be some dialogue with the applicant, because you may have some questions that you believe should be aired out so that the public can be aware of those issues, if any. Thereafter, the chair, you will call on various individuals in whatever order you deem appropriate, and we will receive the public comments, and then we will ask at least 3 times if there are more documents to be received, more comments to be received prior to closing this public hearing. It's an important public hearing. It's on an important matter. The reason the public hearing was triggered was that in the prior decision of the ZBA, there was a comment made about the fall zone. And I believe the judge is looking for evidence relative to the fall zone to support the comment that was made in the prior decision. The ZBA at the next meeting will deliberate and will have an opportunity to uphold its prior decision, to reverse its prior decision, or to modify its prior decision. So the sole purpose tonight, in accordance with the court, is to have a public hearing to obtain additional evidence on the issue of the fall zone. With that, is there anybody in the audience who objects to the procedure that I just laid out?
I had requested in one of my correspondence, Amanda Shelton, by the way, for the record, that to the extent that there are questions asked by the community, that they be answered as part of the public hearing so that they have an opportunity to respond. Because once you close the public hearing, anything that the applicant chooses to say or anything you all choose to find on your own goes unrefuted.
Okay, that is not the way the public hearing will work. We will receive the comments from the public in accordance with the procedures. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Philip Maxwell. I reside at 5280 Osner. That's the property which is immediately north of Kingsbury. It surrounds the township property. I received no notice. My house is 260 feet north of Kingsbury. I've lived on the property, at least the entire property, for the last 20 years. I'm also counsel to the owner of the property.
What's your parcel number?
I don't have my parcel number. It's 118 acres.
You and I communicated on this already, and I showed you the mailing list. And
The mailing list appears to be deficient.
all right,
It's unsworn. The name of Mr. Frankel's address, he is the owner of the property, is circled. Something is said to the effect that there's no sticker. I have spoken with him about this. He has received no notice at his Troy address. And this surrounds the property, as I say, on the eastern boundary of the township property and the northern boundary.
okay, we have proof of mailing to 2301 West Big Beaver Road, Suite 900, Troy, Michigan, 48084, 333-2.
You're also required to serve notice on the residence, which was not done. And Mr. Frankel will swear that they didn't receive it in his office.
Okay, well, I have proof of mailing, and you and I have discussed this, so we'll take your comments under consideration.
And
Thank
we
you.
will be
And the good news
attacking
the good news is you're here, so you must have gotten notice.
I received notice from Ms. Shelton.
You received notice when you and I spoke on the telephone, sir.
Well, not formal notice, of
Okay,
course.
all right.
In any event, I would waive it. But under the authority of the Michigan Supreme Court in Bora versus Tomasa, this is 321 Mich 139. In a case of defective notices before zoning boards of appeal, all of your proceedings to date are void. And we will be going before Judge O'Brien to establish that. You'll have to start over again.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Would you call for a motion to open the public hearing?
It's a call for motion to open the public hearing at 6:28 PM.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
A motion, a motion is second. I would also like to...
Let's vote on the
I'm
motion.
sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Philip Marshall,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Robert Witt,
Yes.
Tony Spino,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Chair Hayward.
Yes. I would like to also request that each person would approach the podium, state their name and address. If you have issues standing up or disability, that's fine, just let us make accommodations or a word of that. For the applicant. If we could hear from the applicant first.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Jonathan Crane. I'm a civil engineer, and I'm an attorney, and I'm appearing tonight on behalf of Verizon Wireless. I come before you to address the issue of the fall zone and the safety of the monopole antenna proposed at Oakwood and Jonathan and Hosner Road, a site that we affectionately call Jonathan and Hosner. My name is Jonathan Crane. We have provided you with structural data, including the calculations from Sabre Industries, our tower supplier. In the 20 years that the gentleman that sealed the drawings, Keith Tyndall, has never experienced a failure of a monopole. I have been working at it for 35 years in the Detroit region, and we have never experienced a failure of a monopole under any weather conditions, any wind loading, any ice loading. They build to meet the Michigan building codes as well as the ANSI standards and the American Society of Civil Engineers design standards. We not only do a caisson foundation, but we do earthquake analysis and so on. The towers are designed such that should there be a severe overload, i.e. ice conditions, tornado conditions, so on, the tower will buckle and relieve the stress. We have not experienced that either, but there, in no case has there been a tower in the last 20 years in the United States that has hit the ground. And that's of the thousands of towers that are being constructed in the industry. That documentation under seal, along with the calculations, have been provided to your board. We're here tonight to ask you to affirm the decision to permit this monopole antenna to go 90 feet from the property line to the schoolyard. It is safe, it is reasonable, and it is not unlike the two other towers that have been constructed in the township that also required side-yard variances. To go back 20 years to a standard that used to be 1.5 times was 1 time, to show the history, to show the reliability, to show the lack of any adverse impact. We have a park right next, a playground, children's playground, with, I understand, some additional improvements planned right next to the city hall, right next, abutting the tower site. You have Watershed Park with the tower within the setbacks of Rochester Road and the parking area for the park. We're here to answer any questions you have. We're here to provide you copies. I don't know if you have a copy of the actual site plan in the record. I would like to give you one. If you don't have one, I'll give you another one.
We would accept that into the record.
But other than that, I will answer any questions. I will answer, and I will tell the members of the public, if they ever want to call me, my phone number is 248-650-8000. I practice, I guess I was supposed to tell you my address, 1126 North Main in Rochester, Michigan. In addition, Mr. Ben Herrick, an attorney of my office, is also here to answer any questions. And Michael Avery, who offered testimony at the first public hearing. That's the small, and my recollection is you said it was the smallest possible percentage you could have in a construction project. I mean, we have not had a problem. You are not going to have a problem. We warranty it, we insure it, we're one of the largest corporations in the United States. Thank you very much, and I will provide you with a hard copy of the large site plan for your records.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You have a question for the applicant? Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. How often are these towers inspected?
We inspect them, they are inspected monthly by our radio frequency engineers and our staff. Now, at that time, they also do the grounds maintenance, the weed treatments, and so on. They're instructed by a structural engineer annually. Structural engineer goes out, he looks at the plans well, looks at the bolts and so on an annual basis. That's a requirement of our insurance company. Thank you. And actually, it's a pretty easy job because I have only seen in one instance they made any recommendation, and that was to tighten down one bolt that came loose on the ground. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The stress calculations that you provided to us, were they based, so far as you know, on the maximum number of antennas that tower will ever hold?
Yes, that's a four
That's
or
not
less.
the starting out number.
That's not the starting out number. And then each time there's a change, and I was just working on one today for Shelby Township. Each time there's any change in the antennas, loading at the top, we rerun structural calculations and we provide them with an application for a building permit. We just don't go out and start changing antennas. But yes, it's rerun, it's for the multiple carrier, and then each time it is again checked.
Number two, what is the pattern of the radiation that comes off these towers, off the antennas on this tower?
The pattern of the...
How?
There's no
There's no
radiation.
cell phones in space, I mean, you don't want your energy going up. How is it broadcast out?
Mike would probably be the...
I can answer that.
radio frequency engineer.
So the
Tell me
vertical-
your name and address.
My name is Michael Avery, address is 24242 Northwestern Highway in Southfield, Michigan. The vertical beam width, which is how the pattern that goes up and down from the antenna, for the antennas that we use, it's 6 to 8 degrees. So if it's the antenna set at 0 degrees, you could potentially have 4 degrees going up and 4 degrees coming down.
So
That's the 3 dB point on the antenna. So that means that at those, that 4 degrees up, 4 degrees down, you have half of your energy coming out of your antennas at that point.
Okay, and then...
That's how antennas are spec'd. That's just the specs.
Something like 120 degree spread.
60 degree.
Each way or total?
The antennas are spaced 120 degrees apart. The vertical beam width is 6 to 8 degrees. The horizontal beam width is 60 degrees for each antenna. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense. The platform at the top is triangular in shape.
Yes. So each antenna is spaced, each sector is spaced 120 degrees apart.
Right.
Yes.
But you need 360 degree coverage.
True.
Horizontally.
So the horizontal beam width is 60 degrees, meaning at 30 degrees from dead center, you're down half power. It doesn't mean that you don't have any type of signal outside of that range. You certainly do have signal, but that's just how antennas are spec'd. This is industry standard.
So you have multiple antennas on each side of the tower, 60 degrees and then 60 degrees roughly?
Yes, yes. So there's 60 degree antennas on each facet of the platform. That's true.
So directly under the tower is not a good place to be?
Directly under the tower, you have less received signal than you would if you step, let's say, 100 meters away from the tower.
Meaningfully less? I mean, a lot less?
You still have very good signal. It's just not as strong as when you get a little bit further away. Then as you get much further away, of course, it drops off. But we found that with our own measurements. Just standing right under a tower, it's less signal received at the mobile device than it is if you traverse out 100 meters or so.
Do you know offhand if the township has asked for any kind of a bond, performance bond, in case this tower ever needs to be taken down?
Pardon?
Has the township asked for a performance bond from Verizon dealing with removing the tower if it should ever need to come down?
Addison Township has not asked for that. It's covered in our lease that we will remove it. Some communities do. But
I mean, if
Addison-
something happened to Verizon and you didn't or wouldn't or couldn't or
We
don't,
certainly can provide it if that's a condition of
I
approval.
believe that's at the township, of course.
Yes.
Just
There's a
as
site restoration clause.
yeah. Oh, there is? Okay. I assume the shed or the outbuilding that you'll be using is similar or the same as those used in the other towers in the township?
Actually, this is going to be cabinets rather than a building. There'll be steel cabinets look like a traffic control box. The technology is getting smaller and
No
smaller.
batteries back up
Batteries are in the enclosure.
in the enclosures?
Yes. It's getting smaller and better.
And I envision you need quite a lot of
Yes.
reserve power. But
We used to have a 12 by 20 foot building filled. We don't need it anymore. It's getting smaller and better.
good to hear. Okay, thank you. That was it.
Mr. Spina. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we should be focusing on the falls zone solely. These are good questions that you have, but to keep it focused at the meeting that is supposed to be dedicated to the fall zone. I'd like to keep the questions regarding the fall zone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions at any time, please feel free to call me. I see one lady that called me and asked me for a site plan.
I did.
Send it to her, or so on. Thank you.
Okay. Would anybody else like to approach? Yes, Mrs. Shelton?
Good evening, my name is Amanda Shelton, I reside at 2775 East Oakwood Road, directly south and adjacent to the subject location. With respect to the fall zone and safety issues pertaining to the tower, and then we'll not discuss the electromagnetic issue, monopole structures do fail. Nothing and no one in life is perfect. So in my correspondence to you, have attached a number of examples. Contrary to what Mr. Crane has indicated in a 2009 discussion amongst engineers, specifically about how to address fall zone with jurisdictions, they say that they fail. They will fall. They tend to not like to design specs for failure, and that the recommendation is always that the fall zone should be at least the height of the tower, and that's what they would recommend to a jurisdiction. I have also attached an article from Oswego, New York, showing that a tower crushed a vehicle, and I believe the date on that is clearly within the last 20 years. You'll have a photographic date on that. There was a tower failure in 2014 in West Virginia. There's another tower failure in Orlando in 2003. And I also attached a number of just thumbnail pictures of tower failures from, frankly, all over the place. So you'll have those in your packet. Sure, none of those failures are intentional. Accidents happen. There is risk associated with everything that we do, whether it's in design or implementation. The applicant submitted a letter from its engineer to the Planning Commission in connection with the request, and it was from a Mr. Michael Plahav or something close, dated July 18, 2017. And in that correspondence, he refers to a theoretical fall radius. It presumes that under the right conditions, the tower would fail at a pre-designed point, allowing it to fall no more than 90 feet from the base. The problem with that is, his opinion is not a guarantee, as Mr. Crane indicates. There are assumptions that there's no flaw in the design, that there's no flaw in the manufacturing, that there's no flaw in the installation, and that the tower is properly and well maintained. All of this is done by humans. Humans are fallible, mistakes get made. It only addresses the concern in the event of a wind load in excess of a 3-second gusted wind speed of 90 miles per hour. It does not contemplate failure for any other reason, which may include erosion or ground issues due to low elevation, fire, human error, snow and ice load, etc. One way corporations like to get around risk is to provide an indemnity, which I'm sure you're looking for in your lease. The problem is that we have no idea who we're dealing with, and this is relevant to safety because this all goes to who's going to be maintaining the structure that's supposed to fall within a theoretical fall zone, right? The township supervisor, Bruce Pearson, signed all of the documents. He designated Mr. Crane as a representative of Verizon Wireless to act on his behalf. Though Mr. Crane appeared in court as an attorney for New Par, Delaware General Partnership, who is purportedly doing business as Verizon Wireless. However, a review of the state of Michigan's Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs database discloses there are 89 entities whose names contain Verizon, 31 entities whose name contains Verizon Wireless, 13 entities whose entire name is Verizon Wireless, and none of whom are a DBA for New Par. Only one New Par, which was a Nevada corporation which withdrew from doing business in Michigan on May 10, 2001. There is, in fact, a New Par Delaware General Partnership registered in Delaware. However, it's not registered as a foreign corporation in Michigan, nor as a DBA for Verizon in Michigan. So I have to question, who are we really dealing with? And what is the strength of the party who's putting this tower in our community and next to our school? Who are their partners? It's a general partnership. That's who we have to rely upon. In the event that there's a breach of this agreement or a bereaved parent of a maimed or dead child, are they collectible? Can you collect against them? Who do you even sue? How do you find that out? Because I couldn't figure out from the state records who these people were. Corporate law has a singular purpose to maximize shareholder profit. Business entities are carefully crafted to ensure that their stakeholders have little or no risk and maximize profits. Another way this can hurt the safety of the tower is if they are not properly capitalized or if they cease to exist, who will properly maintain the tower? Addison Township Ordinance 4.475D provides the application should provide a description of security to be posted at the time of receiving the building permit. That was not in the application. In the light of what little we know about this applicant, if the ZBA breaches its duty to the public by approving this variance, it should at least condition it upon a cash security requirement equal to the cost of demolishing and disposing of the tower and related facilities, remediating the land, and the annual cost of maintenance, which security shall be supplemented by an escalator each year to account for rising costs, given that it is proposed to be a 25-year lease extendable at the lessee's option, not at the township's. As you think about this, think about the hulking monstrosity of the unfinished construction that sits on Telegraph Road just north of Square Lake because the developer did not finish construction and nobody could afford to demolish it. The easiest way to mitigate the risk posed by tower failure is to require a fall radius at least equal to the height of the tower, as advocated by the engineer referred to in paragraph 1A of my letter. It should not be lost on you that Addison Township also made this determination when it exercised its police power, passing the Wireless Communication Facilities Ordinance, setting a setback requirement to the height of the tower. Police power is granted to municipalities, allowing it to impose regulations and restrictions on otherwise free citizens when such regulations and restrictions are for the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Such power also comes with great responsibility, and the restrictions are not to be taken lightly. Just because there has not been a failure recently or one in near proximity does not negate that the risk still exists. When assessing whether to accept risk, a sliding scale should be considered. The more egregious the potential outcome, the less risk should be taken. Here, where we have the lives of children at stake, the willingness to accept risk should be zero, especially where there are alternatives. The applicant should find an appropriate site, not one that is outrageously undersized, too narrow, and covered up with wetlands. I personally find it hard to believe that Verizon considered any other site within its 3 to 5 mile coverage area. I know most of the property owners between Oakwood and Jonathan along Hosner, and not one of us was contacted by Verizon to gauge interest in a cell tower lease. And most of us have at least 20 acres, if not many more. Verizon deals with the township, and the township offered up this site along with the variances. Perhaps the variance the township granted at Watershed Park wasn't a detriment. But here, next to a school, it's an abomination. Parks are utilized by people occasionally and during good weather. Perhaps you arrange an afternoon play date for an hour or so, not in rainstorms or high wind. Schools are attended by hundreds of children for 8-hour stretches, 170 days a year, and is mandated by law. Then you take a unique school like Kingsbury, where they have outdoor classrooms, an active environmental program, and a no child left inside policy, and that risk multiplies. Not only do you put children in harm's way, but you harm the unique program that Kingsbury offers from this historic location, which draws from 17 communities. Kingsbury is a jewel and an attraction to this community that should be protected. You have an unusual opportunity to rethink your error and make things right. Deny this variance. We are a representative government, and the people have spoken. We don't want this tower here. There were tens of pages of letters written in opposition, a dozen people who spoke against the tower for over an hour and a half, 280 people who signed a petition opposing the tower, and 2 lawsuits were filed. Not one person spoke in favor of this project, except a corporate applicant seeking to maximize its profits. Work with this community and find an alternative plan that's acceptable, that's reasonable, that's safe, and that honors the ordinance that you are empowered to enact with your police power.
Is this where I ask them, are you sure there's nothing else to add, or?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deborah Burnell, and I reside at 2673 East Oakwood Road, and I'm basically kitty corner from where this tower is going to be. In the past, residents and volunteers have stepped up to help preserve the history of this community. We have rallied together, donating time and money to move a historical school 8 miles from Lakeville and Hosner Road to its new home at Watershed Park. This was done to preserve the community's history from progress. As a community, we have rallied together, donating time and money to help restore the historic Leonard Mill. Not for future progress, but simply from the progression of time. Now, here we are today, once again rallying together to save a pristine part of our community with a historical past. We're not here only to save this area from progress, but also from poor decisions by those that we have entrusted to protect them. It's deplorable that residents and parents have to come here and plead with this board to uphold zoning regulations established by our local government. Whatever happened to preserving pristine areas of our community, especially those with a historical past? I can sum that up in one word: money. It appears money has misdirected the moral compass of our local government. If that moral compass is not reset, this community will continue to fall to those with the biggest pocketbooks, and we will continue to lose pristine areas of land in the history of our community. That would be shameful. It's up to this board to stop this now and to begin to restore the moral compass of our local government. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? She's already up.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Kara Jane Lavoine. I live at 922 Lockwood Road in Brandon Township, and my son does attend Kingsbury School, which means I come into this community at least once a day, if not twice a day, because I do come and stay a lot at the school. As I have been at all these meetings, and as I pointed out, this 197-foot tower on the property is only 90 feet away from the Hosner campus playground. If the pole were to fail at the base, which being on soft ground, like near the wetlands, is more likely, and it falls towards the school, it will take out our swing set. It will take out our apple tree that the kids sometimes climb into, and it would also, the antennas would fall right where our kids' merry-go-round is. This is the playground for our kindergartner and first graders right now, as well as sometimes the older kids come over, but mainly our youngest of our kids are out here playing. These are the kids we're putting in danger. And since this is also near the top of the pole, the antenna would strike and break out and hit a lot of our other playground equipment. So, and this is exactly why the court sent it back, was for this particular reason, and this has been my main reason for not wanting this thing at this particular spot. If you want to put it here, make it lower, like 100 feet lower. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
Hi, my name is Tiffany Sturt, and I live at 2740 Orion Road in Oakland Township. And my child goes to school. He's in kindergarten, and we are super close of just pulling him out because of your guys' decision. And it's not just my son, it's a lot of parents making that decision. Do I send my kid to school and risk it, or do I just pull him out into a school that is okay and satisfaction? But our concern is, they catch fire, and when they catch fire, they become weaker and they fall. And they'll fall onto our kids' playground. Not to mention, have you guys even been to the school? Have any of you even seen the school? Do you know the layout of the kids' classrooms?
I've been there, yes.
Do you know the layout of our kids' classrooms?
You're the common man, and just
okay. So I will let you know what the kids' classrooms look like. They're all window, all glass. The kids sit and they can see outside. They can see the beautiful trees. They can see what's going on outside. If one were to fall, it's not just a pole. It's one triangular piece that has a cell phone. I don't know what you call them, but the boxes that help you with your cell phone and internet. and then you rent off the space and you become 10 feet lower, or whatever it becomes, next year. Is it 5? Is it 4? Is it 3? How many of them are you going to rent out to become even more? So yeah, it's going to fall, and if it does, it's not just the pole, it's what comes with the pole. It's what's flying through the air to go into the classroom. It's what's flying through the air to get to any of these kids. And I'll give you a slight history lesson if you guys aren't familiar with the Titanic. And the guy who engineered the Titanic, he said, it's unsinkable. It will never sink. We're good. So what do? They have everybody go and board the Titanic. And what happens? It sinks. So you guys might say that these are not going to fall, they won't catch fire, we have, great towers. I don't think that's true. And I don't know, because I've been on, any search engines, Google, cell phone tower collapsing. What does it look like? It's pretty scary. And like I said, it gets weaker and weaker, therefore they just collapse. And you might think that they're going to go sideways and just go down, trickle down and just hit that little area. But then again, how close is our school? It's not that far away. Again, debris. It would just fly everywhere. I think we all can agree that protecting our kids should be our #1 priority. Period. What do we have about our kids? To me, that's just gut-wrenching. I'm sure every company says things to assure you that they're safe, but what I've read online with many different websites and many different people backing it, it's not safe. And I don't know why are we even here discussing the safety of our kids. It's just, to me, to parents, it's just gut-wrenching. And I do not want this thing built. And that's what we're here for. So I hope you guys can take your time and really do your research to see what monopoles are able to do. And it's not just safe building and that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
My name is Ron Renault. I'm 2673 East Oakwood Road, Oxford, Michigan, right across the street from the proposed property. I just wanted to go over a few things here. I believe that definitely shown in my prior written submissions and presentations at the hearings of the ZBA on this subject that the applicant, Township, and Verizon failed to meet the legal standard for granting of the requested lot size variance and the setback fall zone. Please affirm that you, or acknowledge that you did receive those documentations and add them to your deliberation. That was the previous times.
Yeah, they're still in the records.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And they were presented to the court.
Okay. Also, the factors presented did not fit with the master plan of our community. It is also noted that the township and applicant may have possibly perjured themselves in court by submitting that there was no opposition to the application in its meetings or communications from the members of the community. I want to make sure that you remember that, because I've given those documents along with photos of failed towers that broke at the bottom, were subjected to loose ground where they were tilted over. So I can't remember the attorney of Verizon's name, but he stated there was never a failure. That was within the USA. And he was saying he's never had, Verizon never had a failure. They had two. In addition to the Verizon cell tower ordinance legal issues this tower continues to pose, that has already cost the citizens of this township money defending this. Is that not correct, board members? I just wonder. Is that not correct, that it's cost the community already defending it? Or is it being absorbed by Verizon?
We'll take your comments.
I just wonder, I think that's kind of a good question to ask, because it's going to cost us more in the end. I believe that it'll continue to cost us for it. I have questions and statements to you as a governmental body, representative of our community that should operate judiciously, and follow its own laws and ordinances while keeping its interests, its people, safe and without risk. Why does the leadership of Addison Township believe that they should violate and maim their own ordinance for wireless communication facilities placement, especially lot sizes, height restrictions, setbacks, and fall zones, by asking for this variance to put it in a 5-acre parcel when the minimum required is 20 acres? The ordinance was only adopted 4 years ago. Why does the township and Verizon want to destroy a historical land site? Why do you want to risk the safety and security of life? This tower would not benefit the community at this location, with the reasons that we've stated and documented many times in that the kindergarten school is too close and the poor soil conditions at the location for this massive tower, among many other factors. Why hasn't Addison Township Board considered doing a property swap or lease with Kingsbury School, swapping the old school building grounds and acreage, less the old cemetery, for acreage only a quarter mile south on Hosner of the proposed location that Kingsbury owns? This would be the best solution to this legal mess you have made for our community. Because believe me, legal challenges are not going to end. They're just only in the beginning stages. Why do you want to place such an eyesore that risks falling onto a historic building of this township's heritage? No one would be seeing this if it was moved south a quarter mile down Hosner, using the idea of swapping property with Kingsbury School. However, multitudes of people will see it every day if it is placed on the lot next to a historic school as proposed here today. The fact that it does not fit with the area as it is agricultural and of a very rural historical character, a cellular tower does not fit this at all. The applicant has not demonstrated that the facility is not in conflict with the general character and intensity of development of the area. Would it not be in the community's best interest to decline the cell tower placement at the requested location of Hosner and Oakwood next to kindergarten school and playground? I believe it is, as there's too many negatives and very few positives at this location. If it doesn't fit the required location zoning, which it doesn't, if it doesn't provide safety to our children at the school, it doesn't. If it doesn't fit the character of the surrounding community, it doesn't fit our ordinance, our history, our community vision, and planning in this area. I request the ZBA to decline and reject this tower placement on a poor fitting and inappropriate location that would risk too much for so little. As I stated earlier, a better place would be the best place of all is the place of a quarter mile south on the Kingsbury School property that the township could obtain by swapping properties. I am sure Kingsbury would love to finally own its namesake school, and that the property Kingsbury owns will be in line with the zoning ordinance provisions, as is vacant parcel, wooded, very setback. Please reject this request and decline this site, never to have a cell tower placed on it. It is not what the master plan envisioned. The facts remain that you're subverting the very definition, spirit, and purpose of what the ordinance was to avoid having on parcels of land in the township by placing the tower there. The township and Verizon have not demonstrated that the facility is consistent with and promotes the intent of the township zoning ordinance. I reserve the right and chance to ask follow-up questions in this meeting or following meetings to the responses of the applicant and township and Verizon. We will answer tonight or respond later to questions posed here. A couple other things I'd like to note. Another thing is ice falling off the tower. I don't know if that's been mentioned, because that would affect the children in the playground. Obviously, snow falling off the tower. We've had a bunch of snow lately, as you guys know. That could actually injure your child out there playing, and they go out playing during the wintertime. You really want to which board member really wants to play Russian roulette with these children out there with the tower falling on them and dropping stuff on them? All that. I don't understand why this township wants to look and see and have a child injured in any way, shape, or form. I really hope the township can do a sworn duty and fairly and objectively evaluate the evidence and not be biased on this decision. I certainly hope they will, or it'll cost us all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to say just one thing. Could everybody please state their questions as comments? We're not allowed to, nor maybe not even have the answer or capacity to answer questions directed at the board. So if you have a question, that's fine. State it for the record, but not to be rude, we can't answer the questions. Sometimes we can, but not, actually we can't during this public hearing. Is that correct, Mr. Davis?
We received the information. Mr. Renaud, did you want to enter something? Did you?
Yeah, I have the comments.
Yeah, I thought you were kind of,
Yeah.
did you want to put that into the record, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you understand your previous submittals already in the record?
Just want to make sure of that. Yes, sir. Can I have a copy of it?
You can have two. One for your friend over there.
Thank you. One share.
All right. This one's the order, that one's...
Yeah, I'm going to get one.
Hi, my name is Candace LaJust. I live at 400 Shelmar Lane in Orangeville, Michigan. And I would like you to think about it, and I would like you to know, why would you take this risk? Why are you willing to take this risk of this fall zone? You are putting children's lives at risk by breaking your own rules. Rules that were put in place to keep your citizens safe and to keep my children safe. Is this really the best location in a low land, a swampy area? Why aren't you considering other locations? I know a lot of other people that want this tower. The golf course has fully said that they want it. Higher ground, drier ground, more acreage. Even Kingsbury School wanted it, but way, way far back in the pipeline. You have admitted to denying other people who have met the requirements, other residents in the area. I mean, a 200-foot tower, 90 feet, from over 80 children every day. That's ridiculous. I mean, why is Verizon warranting it? Why are they insuring it? Surely there's got to be a concern. I put insurance on my car because it's worth money. And I want it to get fixed when it's broken. That's why I insure things. In 1861, Mr. Kingsbury, Addison Township's first supervisor's son, deeded this property to the township and built a school in his name. Do you think this is what he would have wanted? Do you really think that? In 1975, when the school was finished and its accreditation process was implemented, the Kingsbury Plan was taken underway. And do you know what was written in that plan way back in 1975? It was the beginning of Kingsbury's environmental education program, a program that is the importance and essence of this school. It is why so many people from so far drive to this school. We don't have the right to decide these things. This school is special. It's very special. You will hear people quoting all the time about the Kingsbury way, about the Kingsbury family. Many of us have made so many sacrifices to come to your community because it's special. And because we are coming to your community, we are helping your community. I know the owner of Isola's To Go. She's very happy with Kingsbury School because we go to her and cater events. If my kid forgets their lunch, I can just call them up and they'll deliver it. Right here, your community. Celtic Knot, we go there after meetings quite often. Why do you want to hurt your relationship with Kingsbury and its rich history it has had in your community? You are going to impact the enrollment at this school with your decision. You will unnecessarily put children at risk. You should be proud of this growing school that is now a public school in your community. A school that focuses on natural beauty and the study of the environment. We don't have tech classes. My children have ESP classes. They are out there tapping the trees this week. If you were at the school, you might have seen it. If you observed it. The school is a very giving school. We are always doing community service. I'm sure if someone in the township needs something, my one child has to do 24 hours a year. 25. Is there any elderly people in the township that need some help? I got lots of kids. They can come rake leaves. Why don't we work together? We don't need to bus our kids to Gleaner's Food Bank. We can help in our community. We really should be working together. Is it money? Is that all that really matters to you? The older I get, I realize it doesn't matter at all. That's not what matters in life. It's not what should matter to you guys. I know that you know how profitable it is. There's one right there. But that one is not in a swamp zone, is it? Why are you disturbing my child's education and their peaceful environment and putting them at risk? Do you not think that the construction and regular maintenance 90 feet away from my children's classroom will not be a distraction? How are they going to learn when all those loud machines are there and towers are being built? It is an unnecessary risk. It is eyesore. It's a disruption to the education of my children. It seems like not many of you have even gone out to Kingsbury to determine if it is a good fit, this location. You're going to be disturbing the environment, the nature that my children enjoy. I worked there for 5 years before I decided to stay home with my children. I've walked this exact land many times. I've picked the blackberries in the area. I know exactly where the pool's going, and guess what? There's this giant anthill there. The kids really love standing there and looking at those ants going up that hill. It's pretty exciting when you're 5 years old. Much more exciting than a tower falling on your head. These will be built there. These things are important. They are more important than money. And you have had to move your original design of your plan of where the cell phone tower will be located because of the wetlands. When I worked there, the children used to go sledding down the hill, but you know what? The wetlands have changed, and they've grown larger. The children can't go there anymore. This is why you had to move the cell phone tower even closer to the school. And as the wetlands keep continuing to creep in, it seems like it's going to ruin the structure. Because when I worked there 10 years ago, it's a lot wetter than when I was there. In the next 50 years, there's this wonderful book here about Kingsbury School's 51st years. A nice long book if you'd like to read about the history in your township. I'm wondering, about the next 50 years, is there going to be a title about the tragedy at the lower school? The day that the lower school had to close. The day that the township tower killed children and staff members. We were told it was safe. We were told it was okay to build here near the wetlands on such a small little lot. We were told, who were we told by? We were told by people that it's their job. They don't live there and they don't care about that area. It's a commercial that they're selling to you. And it's money that they're making. It is literally a commercial. I see commercials, my kids see them all the time. I say, no, that's junk. It's absolute junk that they're selling you. People have sold people junk a long time, like cigarettes. They were supposed to be good for you. This product that they are selling you, do you really believe it? Can you still believe it? It will be your fault. How will you sleep at night knowing that you killed innocent children if this were to collapse? And you traumatized many others. I'm opposed, and you need to enforce the ordinance as it's written and revoke previous decisions that you made. You know in your heart it's wrong because you won't allow anyone else to build a tower. You would never grant this for anyone else, this danger of this fall zone and this risk. It's wrong to change your own rules for money. You are unnecessarily putting many children in danger of a falling tower just to fill your pocketbook.
Ma'am, did you want the book into the record? Or is that if that's your only copy?
The school will probably give me another book if you'd like to read it. I can buy another book.
I will buy you another one.
There you go.
Do you want it in the record?
Sure. It's got a great history of the school in there.
Good job, Kenny.
Good evening. I'm Mike McDonald. I live at 51 East Elmwood in Leonard. And I've lived in Addison almost 40 years now. And I've seen a lot of change in Addison. I understand the responsibilities that you have to look at the ordinances, which are legal ordinances, and they also have provisions for amendments or variances. But tonight, the recurring theme I keep hearing is money. And as is often the case, sounds like there'd almost be a competition for locating an antenna out there. I don't think it would be that, there would be vigorous competition for that. But the real question is the money. And I would ask, and I think the zoning board of appeals and the residents deserve to know, if there have been any offers between Kingsbury School and Verizon or agents for either party to make a deal, to work something out for an alternate location, because it would say a lot, and I think we all need to know whether the authorities in either institution are really working for better behalf or if they're working for money. That's my comment. Thank you.
Anybody else want to step up?
Mr. Chairperson, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, my name is Timothy Stoker. I'm here representing Kingsbury Country Day School and Kingsbury School Incorporated, which owns land and otherwise leases land immediately adjacent to the proposed Verizon cell tower. I did submit a memorandum to the board through Mr. Davis. I know that's part of your record because he's indicated that it is so. I do want to clarify one issue before I address the memo. I'm not going to regurgitate it all because you can read it and you'll have an opportunity to read it before the time you deliberate. But one of the comments Mr. Crane made I need to address, and that is he stated that the issue tonight is with regard to the setback variance, and that is not the issue. That variance application has never been submitted either by the township or Verizon at all. So there's never been a request for a waiver of the setback, and nor is that the issue before you tonight. If Verizon and the township want to submit an application for that, they can do so. And the fact that is the case is acknowledged in the court record by the township. The only variance that was sought was the variance from the 20-acre minimum requirement, allowing a reduction of 73.5% area to reduce the mandatory area to less than by 14.76 acres. So that is the only issue before you. The variance of the setback, if they want that, they need to come back to you at another time and seek that. And I don't think there's any dispute on that. So the question is, on remand from the court, and the issue is this, is the fall zone in relationship to the 20 acres. So why do we have 20 acres? And what is the relationship of the fall zone to the 20 acres? And so to look at that, I went back to the beginnings of this ordinance, which are 1997. And I issued a statement to the township, and they obliged without a FOIA. And I said, can you produce any and all records that the township has with regard to the origins of the ordinance that's before this body tonight, and any amendments after the origin of the ordinance. And so the origin actually dates back to 1997, and when it was adopted by the township board. And in 1997, what happened was there was a Nextel cell tower application which came to the township in March of 1997. And that Nextel cell tower application was the subject of 3 planning commission hearings and 1 township board hearing. And during the planning commission's deliberation of that Nextel cell tower, there was a concern raised about the ordinance or lack of ordinance back in 1997 that the township had to deal with in addressing the parcel size, dimensions, and things of that nature with regard to cell tower location. There was even an inquiry made during the planning commission meeting, and we cited the page to you, whether or not there should be a moratorium pending the township's adoption of a cell tower ordinance. During that same deliberative process, the Township Planning Commission and Township Board was advised by Nextel that because of cell tower technology, structural technology at that time, a fall zone of 1.5 times the height of the tower was not required. In other words, the township was advised as early as 1997 of the monopole technology, because that was the type of technology that was being proposed, as Mr. Crane has indicated tonight. And the Township Planning Commission recommended approval, acknowledging the technology. And the Township Board on May 5th, 1997, approved, in May of 1997, while this debate was going on with the knowledge of the technology, the Township Board, by a vote of 7-0, directed the Planning Commission and the Township Attorney to consider a wireless cell phone tower ordinance. In August of that year, the Nextel tower was approved with the waiver of the setback requirement in relation to 1.5 times the height of the tower. Now, why do I bring that up? So the township at that time knew there was technology out there, structural technology alleged by the cell tower industry that the tower did not need the type of setback that is being debated here tonight, or did not need a large fall zone area. Notwithstanding that, the township adopted the ordinance that we have. Planning Commission recommended to the Township Board, after significant deliberation, that in fact the minimum acreage be 20 acres. Well, why would you do that if you knew that the monopole would collapse on itself? Why not just say a half acre, or 1 acre, or 2 acres, or 3 acres? But that's not what the Planning Commission recommended to the township. The Planning Commission said, no, notwithstanding the technology that exists, the structural integrity as alleged by the cell tower industry, we're going to say that the minimum acreage shall be 20 acres. Not 5 acres, not 4 acres. Certainly not the acreage that's before you tonight. And separate from that, they also recommended to the Township Board that the minimum distance or setback be no less than the height of the tower. No less. And why was that done, in addition to the other criteria? Those recommendations were considered by the Township Board, and following those recommendations, the Township Board adopted the ordinances recommended by the Planning Commission, which required those standards to be met. And in doing so, they noted the objectives of the ordinance in applying these standards. The first objective was to ensure that wireless providers, I'm going to state this, I'm going to go back. After stating the purpose and intent of what the wireless communication ordinance was to provide for, they noted the following things. It is the further purpose and intent of the township to provide for authorization in a manner which will retain the integrity of the neighborhoods and the pristine rural character, property value, and aesthetic quality of the community at large. In fashioning and administrating the provisions of this section, an attempt is to be made to balance these competing interests. So the Township Board balanced the competing interests, that being the height of the tower, potential location of the tower, with the demand and the need of the cell tower industry to place towers within a community. And they said, this community said by ordinance, in balancing that, the balance is this: it cannot be on any property less than 20 acres, and the setback cannot be any less than the height of the tower. So that balancing already occurred here. There's no additional balancing that needs to be made. The township set its rule. It's now asking to break its own rule after applying its own balancing test. It's not permitted to do that. In adopting this balancing scheme to allow cell towers to exist within the community under these requirements, the ordinance further stated, and does state today, that it was done for appropriate locations in relationship to adjacent land uses. Limit inappropriate physical and aesthetic overcrowding of land and avoid adverse impact on existing population and public service needs. And third, minimize negative visual impacts of wireless communication facilities on neighborhoods. And to that end, place the structures in a manner promoting compatibility. Those standards are explicitly stated in the ordinance. They were explicitly put there in 1997. After stating these are the intent, after balancing the interests of the cell tower companies to place their towers in their community, they set forth a number of standards. Mr. Bowman says in his memo to you that these are waivable standards. That's not true. It doesn't say may, it doesn't say can, it doesn't say sometimes. What the ordinance says in pertinent part under 4.47B as follows. It says the following standards shall be met. Not sometimes, not part of the time, not at anybody else's discretion, shall be met. Then it says the minimum lot size shall be 20 acres. Not 5 acres, not 4 acres, not 2 acres, not 1 acre. It says it shall be 20. It did that after balancing the need of the cell tower companies to be within your community. The board said in adopting the ordinance, the minimum parcel size shall be 20. That way, the township and its neighbor and the people living here can be protected, and the objectives sought in appropriate relationship, safety and compatibility, overcrowding, visual negative impacts can be preserved. Then it says, and I quote, the setback of the support structure from all lot lines shall be no less than the height of the structure. This allows the Planning Commission, in looking at special land use approvals, to allow something greater. You can't have something greater if you diminish the parcel size upon which the tower is to be. This allows a tower then to be located on a property in a manner that will not cause potential public health and safety issues to neighboring properties, and in a manner that will not cause incompatibility with those neighboring properties.
Mr. Stepper, I'm sorry. Coffee. I got to take a bathroom break.
We're good. I'm about ready to go to 2013.
I'm ready to go back, but apologize.
You wore them down, Mr. Stoker.
In this business, the last person standing is the last person.
How much more can we get out of this?
We don't get it. I know we don't get it. Give it out of meeting.
Well,
Wait till you get old like no, we need to be around for another 20 years. He said we're going to hear it. Well, I cannot find. They're not going to hear it.
yeah, they want to compile it all.
At the school.
Okay. Stoker, you were at a comment.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. So simply stated, in 1997, the Township Board, in adopting the foregoing shall requirement, shall be 20 acres, shall be this, shall be that, did so with the full knowledge of the cell tower company's statements that the structures were fine and would not fall, and did so in a manner to balance off the cell tower desire to be here with the minimum acreage requirement and minimum setback requirement, so as to absolutely balance the desire of those companies to be here while providing the minimum protection afforded to the adjacent property owners. The only way to modify that is to actually increase the setback, not to decrease it. There's no provision in the ordinance that allows, even though that's not the issue, but that's why the 20 acres is there. It is to allow the placement of the tower on the safest part of the property and in a manner that meets the aesthetic and rural character objectives of this area and of the community as set forth within the standard. Now in 2013, the township again revisited the ordinance, and recommendations were made with regard to the cell tower ordinance itself. But there were no changes made to these sections, and there was no recommendation that changes be made to these sections. So 2013, it's 5 years ago from now, the Township Board, with the same technological knowledge of the structural integrity that is alleged by the cell tower company, did not see fit to change the ordinance, did not even see fit to review those sections of the ordinance, and has now maintained those requirements, 20 minimum acre setback, and not less than the height of the tower. If you apply the objective of what the fall zone is in relationship to the acreage, it is clear that under section 28.10.4, which is what you consider with regard to dimensional variances, that any deviation from that requirement will be injurious to the surrounding neighborhood and will not be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and will be substantially detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. It doesn't meet that requirement. For them to get that variance, they have to meet that requirement. And the township has already, by its clear policy, says, we've made the balance, they need to comply. They've not demonstrated why they cannot comply. And that is the issue that is before you. So since they cannot meet the section 28.10.4 standard, which says the granting shall not be injurious to the surrounding area and must be in harmony with the surrounding area if granted, then this board is required then to deny the application that's before you. Now, in response to our memorandum, Mr. Bowman submitted a memorandum. Rand Bowman submitted a memorandum dated March 7th, directed it to Mr. Davis, as township attorney, and said that I and the court erred in viewing the 20-acre minimum as mandatory. And he then related to the setback for septic systems within the lake area. And he says, the ZBA allows for technological advances which otherwise meet the same purpose of the zoning ordinance. Well, the allegation of technological advancement was made in 1997. It's the same argument Mr. Crane's made tonight. He says they've been safe for 20 years. Same argument. Notwithstanding that, the Township Board said it shall be no less than 20 acres. It shall be not less than the height of the tower setback. To deviate from that will vary from the intended harmony in public health and safety that the Township Board promulgated when it adopted the ordinance in 1997, which the Township Board left in place in 2013 when it revisited the ordinance in which it exists today. Under those circumstances, the balancing's already occurred. Verizon needs to go out and find another piece of property that meets the requirements of the ordinance. And we'd ask that you deny the application. Thank you.
See if everyone, I mean, I'm not saying you can't speak, let's see if, is there anyone else that wants to speak, tender a record, submit an exhibit?
I think I got something to say.
You haven't spoken before, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead,
I
no.
like
It's
what you had to
seconds for
say
me, go right
better,
ahead.
so. My name is Adrian Jess. I live at 400 Shelmar Lane. I live in Brandon Township now. I used to live directly across the road from the proposed site where they want to put the tower. I used to live in the small little carriage house when I first got married. My wife worked for Kingsbury. So I've got a pretty good connection to the area. I have one child at the lower school. I have another child that has completed the lower school and is now at the upper school. And I have another child on the way, which I intend to send to the lower school.
I'm not sure you were supposed to disclose that.
Not on the way, like on the way. We've got a third child that's 3 years old.
Well, Channel 4. Channel 4 knows about the baby.
On their way to the school. Already existing, on their way to the school. Hopefully, provided there's not a cell phone tower.
I'm sorry.
I kind of wrote down a bunch of things here. I would like to try and pertain to the fall zone issue, but I got some things I wrote down. I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a guy. I look around, you know, I consider myself a pretty common sense person. And common sense says that this doesn't make any sense. My first impressions when I heard about the cell tower were to laugh it off as comical. It wasn't until later I learned about the specifics, and I actually realized the seriousness of this consideration and was in total disbelief and amazement. Then I heard the zoning requirements and all the vocal opposition and thought that there was no way that this is going anywhere. I was mistaken. I felt it necessary to try and add a little common sense discussion to the topic. Just so we're clear here, tonight we're talking about a variance to the fall zone. Fall zone. As in where the tower will fall in the event of a malfunction, which would be on the playground of a kindergarten and first grade school. An ordinance in the township requires 20 acres of land to ensure zero possibility a collapse will endanger adjacent parcels. You're requesting a huge variance. You fall short of the requirements by 75%, meaning you're requesting a variance of 300% to supposedly help the community. If I were to privately fund my own community center to provide all sorts of free services and activities to the community, which we would all agree would be a good thing for the community, and I applied for a variance to install a standard septic system 1/4 the proper size, or possibly I could request a variance to put it 1/4 of the distance required to my well, or maybe all of my doors could be 8 inches wide. Probably not, in the interest of safety. I can state my hardship as I really want to, The hardship stated for your variance request might as well be. I really, really want the money that this tower will generate. I would ask any one of you to exercise a little common sense in regards to the placement of this tower. Verizon says this is the place. Really? This is the best option. 90 feet away from a school playground is the place that Verizon needs to service their customers. Stand in the proposed location and look across the street to the west. There's a giant field over there. You'll have to look up, as in to higher ground, which a topographical map will show the entire field to be on higher ground. All high and dry. This spot satisfies any possible requirement that the proposed site does and more. Have these property owners been contacted? Numerous property owners in the area have expressed interest in hosting a cell tower. Have you physically visited any of these sites to see for yourself? Have you ever looked them up, even on a topographical map on the internet? The problem with any other site is that it's not owned by the township. The township has nothing to gain from any other site other than cell coverage for the residents of their community. I'm sure there would be some opposition from local residents to these locations as well. And who's going to stick their neck out if there's nothing in it for them? Verizon chose the township property because they knew if they dangled a carrot in front of their face and got them walking in their direction, it was good as done. Regardless of the voice of the community. Any landowner would be at the mercy of these exact meetings. However, they wouldn't have the boards in their pockets. And the boards could possibly, at that time, make rational decisions as a common person would run out of time, money, and energy and be pushed aside. It's clear to anyone on the outside looking in that the township is the only candidate for this project in Verizon's eyes to drag it out indefinitely and defy the requests from the community that they obey the existing zoning law. The people fighting this can figure it out. The 5-year-olds in the school can figure it out. Although explaining the funny math might be a little interesting. If 4 fourths is a whole, take half of that, then take another half of that, and that's the amount of land that the township has to put their tower on. Do we teach the kids to take 25 cents to the dollar store and buy anything they want? Another term that gets thrown around as a be-all is the term engineered seems to be used as an end-all, be-all solution to any opposition to this tower's construction in regards to the fall zone. I work with teams of engineers daily, most of whom are fantastic, competent people. Most. I've had many occasions where I've been told parts A, B, and C will not fit into box 3. I've offered to show them said box or car with these parts in it, only to be told the data says it doesn't fit. There was a team of some of the world's best engineers, top-notch technicians, the finest materials available, working on a little project called the Challenger Space Shuttle. It was engineered to not explode. Of recent interest, do you believe Takata airbags, a safety device, were engineered to shoot shards of metal into people's faces, or were they engineered to save lives? My point is, sometimes even the best laid plans have flaws. This planned site is the farthest from minimum risk possible. If something goes wrong on a landowner's property that they chose to erect a tower on, it's their burden. They get to make that choice for themselves and for their families. You do not get the choice to place that burden on my family, my children, or any of the other families with children in a school. A hot button issue of much discussion in recent weeks has been the safety of schools and how to protect the children attending them. It has sparked heated debates about complex and complicated national issues such as gun control, mental health. When someone enters a school and injures or kills a bunch of children, it could be definitely be classified as an unlikely event. Does that remove all relevance of the seriousness of the situation? If I say to you, I've never heard of an instance of that happening in Michigan, as did Tony Spina in remarks to grant the variance, does that make it a non-issue? Something we should let fall on deaf ears? Ridiculous. This is the safety and well-being of our kids. Use your head. All of this opposition is unfounded. Don't hide behind BS laws that can be manipulated and twisted to benefit your agenda. Any mention of negative health effects cannot be used as basis for discussion. It's law. Really? That's the one you want to hang your hat on? There's 100 other laws that you could use to help you do what's right. Our country used to have several laws about how people were to own other people. I don't see a lot of people hitching their wagon to that train anymore. Right is right, wrong is wrong. There's no law about not sticking your arm in a meat grinder, but I imagine anyone here could figure it out. Common sense, exercise it. Do your job. Do what's right. Is everyone that naive to think no one here knows what they're talking about? I am opposed to the variance. You need to enforce the ordinance as originally written. Do not approve this variance. It is wrong. Once done, it's done. That's it. The satisfaction of a collective "I told you so" from the people in this room opposed to this sorry excuse for a plan will hardly be worth what it costs the community in damages. Thank you.
Yes.
Ivan Levinsky. I live on Hadley Road, Ortonville, Michigan. I'm a father of a child, and similar to him, soon to be another child coming to school, already born. And you notice they're not here. They were at the other two meetings, the first ZBA and the Planning Commission. And I remember you distinctly waving to my younger one, Hunter, 3 years old. My wife doesn't want them here today because they know what's going on. The 3-year-old knows what's going on. They know that the people here to protect them are not doing their job. I explained to my son when I go to the school board meetings, I'm going to the good guys. When I come here, I'm going to the bad guys. It's sad I have to do that, but I have to make it simple. So that's where you put yourself, as the bad guys. How are you going to feel? I know that you don't make a decision, but how are you going to feel? That 3-year-old. Knowing he was in this courtroom, and then find out later he's dead. How are you going to feel? Is it going to be worth the money you make? Is it really? Here's another, you want to look me in the eye when I say that? Here's another thing. Why do you want this so bad? I really don't think you guys even get that much money And I really doubt you're getting any of this money. Imagine if someone from Addison Township has told you to vote yes on this. They were the only one that said no. And you're doing it. You're doing your job. You're doing what you're told to, which I'm pretty sure is illegal to be told to do that. But I can't imagine that all of you would just on your own like, yes, this is great. I want to have the cell tower 90 feet from a playground. 90 feet? I mean, come on. I just cannot believe any normal human would be for that. But maybe I'm wrong. I had a couple points that were valid. I was thinking, what if there was 20 acres right next to the school? 20 perfect acres that are perfectly flat. It's even mounted up on the top of the middle. And you put the cell tower in the middle. That means it'd be approximately 933 feet from the school. That's pretty nice. 933, and it would be farther back from the road, so I would assume it would be well over 1,000 feet. So if you were able to just follow your own rules, everything would be fine. Find another property where the rules are met. I mean, it's so simple. Even if it was by a school, which I still don't like, but I mean, 1,000 feet, that's a lot. 90 feet, 1,000 feet. More than 10-fold. That's why the rule's there. It's not just something random. It's not because there used to be these crazy towers with guy wires, go flying and hit somebody. That's not why. As this gentleman has explained, when the laws were made and that monopoles did exist. Another thing is, I mean, I know that this isn't my place, but this really seems like a conflict of interest. Just this week where I work, there was a talk about safety. Now, my job is to maintain this test equipment. I'm like, okay, it would make no sense for me to go on the safety walk, especially 5 o'clock on a Friday, and that electrical fire seems fine. I want to go home. Because if it is being done safe, I have to fix it. So they have to have another person. They have a manager doing the safety walk. And then tell me, Ivan, you need to fix this. This is an electrical fire. This could cause a fire. Here, the people that are supposed to be protecting us are the ones that are to gain. Which again, I don't see how you personally gain. I don't see why anyone here would want to pass this. It just doesn't make sense. Unless there is a kickback. Is there some party you guys get to go to? I don't know. I just can't imagine why you get this. Why is 17 grand a year is what I hear? I feel like you could put a small house on there and make that and rent a house. I mean...
Mr. Kaminsky, could you please keep it to the fall zone or whatever might be related?
Yes, sorry. Good point. What was my safety?
We all are a good collective group.
Yes.
We're all civil servants.
No, yes. That's my point.
It's not just Mr. Spina, but we all were in a collective group and a decision. You know?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Take your time.
Yeah. I'm trying to listen. I'm going to move on. Okay, so there's a comment from Verizon saying that they've never had a tower fall in 20 years, and I can't remember the company they use. So only their competitors have problems? Or as she's just defining that basically Verizon has all these companies and basically, if a company only exists for 10 minutes, of course, in the last 20 years they had no failures. I'm hearing after what she said, that really scares me. And then what Candace said about that being a commercial. So actually, I have really no faith in that data, and it might be totally good. And hopefully you look at that and say, oh, no, this is true. It's done 20 years. It is the same company. So that's up for you to decide. I think the biggest thing is, I know it's with the cell tower, but we don't want it. That was why we were here for the first CD. That was why we were here for the planning. Everybody here, we don't want it. I mean, doesn't that mean something beyond just the fall zone? And of course, we don't want a tower that's capable of falling on our kids' playground, but we just don't want it. Even if it was 100% safe. It's just this terrible eyesore. I know we're supposed to move on past that. It's just about the falling, but man, that's really is a huge point for me. And I really wonder, would Addison Township have passed, the ZBA, have passed this variance at the previous time if Addison Township wasn't the game? If it was just me. Ivan Levinsky's got 20 acres, or no, he's got 19.9 acres. Not enough to make the, would it get passed? Would it get passed at 10 acres? 5 acres? I really doubt 5 acres, especially if you pushed over by a school. So that would easily be turned down. So I really beg of you to revoke the previous ZBA decision. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Can I get a copy of that?
Yes, sir.
Which one is this? Or?
Here's the other.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak up? Has everybody gone, once that hasn't gone, has anybody not gone yet? We're going to go for round 2. Mrs. Shelton, please approach.
I'll be brief.
That's right.
I want to bring to your attention, under your ordinance, under section 2.02, in definitions, the definition of variance, it specifically says, as used in this ordinance, a variance is authorized only for height, area and size of structure, or size of yards and open space. Doesn't even permit you to give a variance for a lot size. And yet here we are. All this time and money and effort and discord in the community. And then I would just implore you lastly, please take us seriously. I mean, this is representative government. We are the citizens, we are the stakeholders, we are the community. And in your authorization of the variance back in July, when talking about rural character, you likened rural character to the technology that existed in 1900, with no refrigeration, no supermarkets, with no CAT scans or kidney dialysis. That's not what rural character is. Character is about visual effect. If you looked at the National Historic Preservation Act and you had a structure listed on the Register of Historic Places, they govern the character of that structure based on how it looks, the color of paint. Under your interpretation of rural character, we would have to have lead-based paint, lead pipes, outhouses, handles, asbestos, and I don't think that's what's intended. And so for you to tell that to us makes us feel like you see us as naive, stupid, unbelievable, I'm not sure why. But I'm asking you, I'm imploring you, please take us seriously. We're a pretty smart group. We're asking you to act legally. We're not just asking out of self-interest. We care about our community. And we're asking you to care about our community. We wouldn't ask you to play Russian roulette with your children or your grandchildren. But that's what you want to do with our neighborhood and our children. And you wouldn't have to if you had an adequately sized parcel with an adequate location for the tower.
Thank you.
I'll also make this brief. I have a question. I have, my husband, unfortunately can't be here. He was here at the last meeting. Can I show you just pictures of cell towers and them falling or collapsing? Is that okay? Because I have a website you can look at
You can direct that
one by
question
one.
to me, and I think we could probably take copies of that in the record, but...
Can I mail that? Can I mail it?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you provide that to the township, and we'll, right now, make a decision that we will accept that into the record.
We don't know.
Just use my phone or just write it down?
But could you also please, sorry to interject.
Okay.
Identify where and when those pictures were taken?
Anything can be produced on a...
Right.
on
No,
digital.
I've been reading this, and it's one of the sites that I've seen before.
I'm not saying it's not true, I'm just saying it's not really
Can you
concrete evidence.
submit it to the township tomorrow with the information?
So
Supporting
another thing, absolutely, yes, I will. So I want to put something in perspective. This school isn't just about a playground, about kids playing on the playground, having a great time, and it's all tower falling in the fall zone. This school is a nature school. If you guys have any opportunity to go out and look at it, you will see how precious it is and how these kids, they literally work together to come in this land and congregate and do activities and events. It's not just the kindergarten and first grade. These kids, they have reading buddies, they go outside. Most of the stuff they do, reading, spelling, math, they encourage them to go outside and learn. They do it through the nature program. They go out and not just talk about bugs. They'll say, oh, isn't this great? They have, 4 spots. What does that mean? Oh, this guy has 4 spots. Let's add it together. What do you think it is? Oh, 8. They do so much, like hand-on things. It's done outside. Like, that's the pure beauty of Kingsbury. It's the Kingsbury way. And having the cell tower and knowing that it's not safe because the fall zone is 90 feet to the school. I mean, it's just not safe. I mean, I would never, I can't believe we're even having this discussion again. Like, why you went this far? But just to keep it short, let's see.
Hi, Steve Jones, the general manager here at Aaron's in Winchester. Aaron's helps make it possible to own the appliances, electronics, and furniture bulk.
Sorry about that.
So anyhow, they all congregate from the upper school and they come down to the lower school and they do things like activities, concerts, they congregate, they do gym outside. They have everything literally outside, so it's not just, I think you had said 80 kids. It's, let's see, 20 kids times 16, that's 320 kids at one time could be in this little area doing an activity, a winter fest or a New Year, some kind of, activity outside. So it's not just this little school with first grade and kindergarten. It affects all of them, like every single kid. That's why it's so important for you guys to make a decision that is, responsible. That's pretty much it. I think I touched on everything, but I'll submit that to you. But just think that it's not just about the playground, it's about all of our kids and parents. So it's more than just 80 kids, far more. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we, anybody else would like to speak? Mr. Renaud?
Just one question. We talked about earlier the liabilities. I'd like to ask this question. What liability will be, say like that tower falling, who would be sued? The township would be sued because you allowed it through this zone. The township would be sued, the children would be dead and everything else because you guys want to push this through. So there's a big liability for us as a community, us as individuals, everything. You got to consider that. And I think that's the thing that people forget. Is that liability there and that's an injury that could be occurred. So I just want to make sure that we look at that liability because you are all fiduciaries of our community. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Just one other point. Again, my name is Philip Maxwell. I lease the property that surrounds the township property. There was mention of perhaps having the zoning board come out and do a walkabout. I would urge that. What hasn't been mentioned here is one of the reasons why Kingsbury became an environmental focused school was Ann Susanna's teacher, who my daughters went to school there, and a remarkable lady with great knowledge of the area. She should be consulted by you folks because this land is the headwaters of Saginaw Bay. At one point on our farm, everything flows north to Saginaw Bay, and on the other side, everything goes to Lake St. Clair. It is one of the great flyways for birds in the area. The wetlands that you're all talking about, I can sit in my bedroom window and see 10 or 15 herons or sandhill cranes coming down to land in the wetlands. If there were a 200-foot tower, you'd be taking those birds out regularly. This is ecologically very fragile land. We don't know what radio frequencies do. We have a few ideas. We certainly hope they don't harm the children. What do they do to the wildlife? What do they do to the aquatic wildlife? They alter, the threat is that they alter DNA. We don't know. 20 years from now, we may have enough data to know. I know there are studies in Germany which are showing increased risk of cancer because of cell phone towers. And this is very recent data. Don't take this risk. Don't do it. It's not an advisable thing to do. And it's going to end up costing this township a great deal of money in litigation because my client will not stop. When I was a young lawyer, he told me, the way you win litigation is you don't quit. And we won't quit. Thank you.
Okay.
We need a motion to close the public hearing.
Anybody else like to speak tonight?
Documents?
Any other documents or?
Sir, you read kinda from something. Do you want to enter that into the record? Or is it?
Well, isn't that not part of the record when you?
He's on tape and he's in there. I was just asking, do you want your written material in the record?
This is just, I don't think anybody would be able to understand this.
No problem, no problem. Just wanted to give you the.
You have whatever I said recorded.
It's on the minutes and it's recorded. Okay, thank you.
Has everybody said what they had to say tonight? Just wanted to close the meeting up here. Ask for a motion to...
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second support.
Please note the time in the motion.
And thank you. I almost forgot.
At 8:07.
8:07.
Great. Let's vote on that motion.
Yeah, we're going to take a vote on that. Roll call, please.
Robert Smith,
Yes.
Philip Marshall,
Yes.
Tony Spina,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Chair Hayward.
Yes.
That closes the public hearing. The CBA will reconvene. This matter will be on an agenda in April for deliberation and decision. In the interim, you guys will have the record. And you can take your time with it.
Can I ask you a question? How is the deliberation going to work? I heard that, you guys were talking earlier about this other issue. You said there was really going to be discussion on it. During the deliberation, do you guys discuss amongst yourself?
At the next meeting, the applicant will be here. You can be here. They may have further questions for the applicant based on what they heard tonight. There will not be another opportunity for the public to present information. That process is done.
But is there any opportunity to ask questions again at that time?
Not technically, but I'm sure that if the issues are raised, we might be able to get information from the applicant.
I think your question was, do we meet before the next meeting to talk about this?
They don't.
The answer is no.
No, I think what you were saying is at the next meeting, if he asks the applicant a question, can you ask a question about that issue?
Yeah, I was going back to a question before that, Mr. Davis.
Different questions.
No, we do not meet. Between meetings, we do not meet at all.
They're not, I understand. So the public understands. This body can only deliberate in this format.
Yeah, there's no...
Because otherwise, it's a violation of the open meetings.
That's correct.
They don't get together, they
cannot...
each get a separate record. I've given them each this record.
So their deliberation has to be in public.
Yeah, we don't talk on the phone, and we don't go to a restaurant, have a beer, we don't, no contact.
Well, we can talk, two people can talk, maybe
But we
three.
don't.
We don't.
We don't because it gets
We
complicated.
can't do three here because
No.
he can't vote, so that would be exceeding
Right,
his
so-
quorum.
Right.
We just don't.
Yeah, we keep it, that's why I'm not involved in the township or anything besides this.
All right, that's it for...
Okay.
So moving on to other business. I have no other correspondence. Double check. Nope, that's all. I have no other correspondence for me. Next is zoning board reports. Nothing for me either. And planning commission, anything?
The planning commission has no pending agenda right now. We've cleaned up everything that has been brought to us, and we're just there on a regular basis, so nothing pending.
We're doing correspondence. We have correspondence, board reports.
So why don't we adjourn so we can let these people...
Well, do we have to entertain a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion. I'll make a motion that we adjourn. I'll support.
Second. You don't need a second, but
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Stand adjourned.